welcome back to the Jewelry Business Academy podcast. I don't even know how many times you've been on the podcast at this point, but it's been a couple. And so I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I love your podcast. I love listening
Oh,
to it. Yeah, I've been listening to it for years before I
oh my
even,
goodness.
yeah, joined the Business Academy back in, 2022.
Yeah, you joined a few years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still in there. Oh my gosh. And you're still listening to the podcast. I love that so much. And I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today because it's kind of wild when you think about it. I remember it was only a couple of weeks ago when you were like, oh my gosh, like this crazy wild thing, like my studio flooded, which means XYZ, like there's so many things that happen to inventory and all this stuff where you're suddenly like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to make sales during one of the busiest seasons for my business? Does this mean it's the end? Like, what am I going to do? And now we're a couple weeks later, and you turned what a lot of people would have seen as like a sign that this is the end, or I'm going to take a few months break, or check out, or whatever it is. Like, you turned this into such an incredible opportunity for sales. And you've done so well in navigating it. You've been so good at like navigating the emotional part of dealing with this because this brings up so many emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of pausing everything, you made a bold pivot that led to one of your most successful product launches. And so I'm really excited for us to dive into all of this, how you navigated it, how you've managed to stay so grounded, and the wins and like kind of unexpected magic that came through. So let's throw back to the first day where you discovered, I don't actually know how this happened. Like, how did you discover that there was a flood in your studio? What was going through your mind? Like, how did this all come about?
Well, give me 1 second. I'm still hearing a little bit of an echo. There we go. Is that better?
Yeah,
Yeah,
your
that
sound's
sounds
perfect.
perfect. Nice.
Oh, no, I hear myself now.
Hold on 1 second. There we go. I'm gonna connect. It's because my AirPods didn't
They didn't
connect.
connect properly.
Yeah.
Fun times.
That's what happens though. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, no, mine are connected.
Perfect.
Okay, there we go.
Perfect. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's throw back to a couple of weeks ago, like day one, where you wake up in the morning, you think it's going to be another normal day in the life of a jewelry business owner. I don't know how you discovered that your studio had flooded. Like, did you go down for breakfast, like, and like see the studio? Like, walk us through that day when you discovered what actually happened and how you felt.
Okay, so it was actually earlier in June. I remember my girls were just about finished with school, and we've had a lot of rain in New Jersey. It's been a very soggy season, and I went down to my studio and I saw some water in like corners by the walls. And, I didn't really think anything of it at first until I called my husband down, and we looked around and we saw multiple places in my studio. And my studio is in my basement. And it's really big. It's well lit. It's where I could, make a mess. And I see water. So I grab my husband and we go downstairs and we find out that our HVAC pump malfunctioned. So we went back where the boiler is, which is not in the actual studio, to find that the water was actually just coming out of our HVAC into the studio. And once we got our insurance in, and they basically had a recovery team come over to assess the damage, and found out, like, we pulled jewelry, we pulled my equipment away from the walls, and it was all mold all around the studio. So I want to say, like, this was the second week in June, and I make ocean inspired jewelry. So we're like going into my prime season. I'm getting wholesale orders, and people are about to go on vacation. And, this is like my highest season is always the beginning of summer. So this couldn't happen at a worse time. So my initial thought was, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I have wholesale orders. I have a website. Um, I don't have much in stock, but I can't work down there. Within days, my studio was basically like they had the recovery team from their insurance company came in and just brought in, and you can imagine how chaotic it is because when you're moving, you have things neatly packed into boxes that are labeled. Well, these guys just wanted to rip apart the studio, get everything out. So they brought in boxes, they brought in blankets, and like I want to say they were great, but we just packed things into boxes. They rented this pod and stuck it in there. So I was, my kids were about to end the school year. We had graduations, we had so much going on, and I didn't even like think like, okay, what can I take before they pack everything? What kind of equipment can I save?
Mm.
And so I took whatever I could out of my studio, and that was it. That was like the studio shut down. Like I was like, okay, like my business is done. Like I'm about to, I knew that like this would kind of take a turn, possibly for the worst, especially when you have to break it to store owners that you can't fulfill orders.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. So while I was going through some stuff, I found these oyster shells that I collected. And this is kind of like the beginning piece of the good part of the story.
Mm.
Uh,
Before we get to the good part, Amanda, I want to talk a little bit more about like that phase of like your studio that you poured so much blood, sweat, and tears into. Like that just being ripped apart basically by these guys putting everything in boxes. Like the distress that we like somebody would feel like I can't even imagine how it must have felt having everything just like taken away and this business that you've built and poured so much into and that's doing so well. I mean, you have all these wholesale orders and stuff and people wanting your stuff and they've paid for it and now you suddenly can't get it out to them. Like, did you have a moment where you were like, that's it, I'm done?
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was like I love creating jewelry, and I
Mm-hmm.
love meeting people. I love creating what I create that brings so much joy to people. So, initially your mind just goes to that doom and gloom, like, it's over. And, if I can't like bounce back from this real quick, like I said to my husband, I said, I love what I do, but I don't want to feel this stress. So instead of, you let yourself feel the doom and gloom because it's natural. It's natural when something happens, whether, you're running any type of business where it's like you have to shut down for a little while. I
Mm-hmm.
think about COVID, so many businesses had to shut down, and, you know, you have to either recover from that, or you just give up. And I kind of took a moment to reflect back on that. And I've worked so hard to build this business. And for having you along the way, watching my journey, I didn't want to disappoint people. Because I already felt disappointed, like, oh gosh, this is happening. Like, all the years that I put into this, I'm not gonna be able to sustain the next couple of months while having no jewelry, or just not feeling like I want to show up on Instagram. And
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, I mean, you kind of you let yourself feel it. And then I kind of sat down and I took out, because this is something that I, know feels good to me, is when I'm feeling this way, I just want to paint. I was an artist. I was an art teacher. I went to school for painting and drawing. It's very cathartic for me to just start painting. And
Mm.
that's what I did. And it's really interesting how art therapy really does soothe the soul. And I take art and I take my love for the ocean, and this is what created my brand. So I think it was then where I had some inspiration to
Mm.
go in a different direction. And
To make a little pivot.
yeah, and like you always said, and I do, we do listen to you, Robin, when you tell us like post everything to Instagram, like post, put yourself, and I started doing that. And that's where I took those oyster shells that I collected, and I have tons of oyster shells. And I love hydrangeas, and I was seeing hydrangeas as such a trending symbol this summer
Mm.
in everywhere, like gift stores. And I was like, I'm just going to paint little hydrangeas on oyster shells and post them to Instagram, not really selling them, but just
Mhm.
saying, hey, when life gives you lemons, turn it into something, that blooms.
Mm.
And I was sitting on my deck, and it was the beginning of summer, and I'm painting these little mini hydrangea oyster shell necklaces. And I was about to do an event. And this is also why, I had to kind of think about it, because I had events this summer that I had to do. So I'm like, okay, well, I have small amount of stock that I'm going to bring with me to events, but I'm just going to bring these oyster shells. But even before I did the events, people started messaging me on Instagram. Um, are you going to launch these? Are you
Mhm.
going to put them on your website? Like, I want one. I mean, the messages started coming in, and I wasn't even thinking about putting them into a collection or making them. I mean, I just enjoyed painting hydrangeas, but people were loving them. So I brought some of the necklaces to my first event for the summer, and they sold out. Launched them to my VIPs within the first 5 minutes of the launch. um, you just hear the orders coming in. uh, and then I was like, okay, this is a good problem to have. I'm literally working at my kitchen table right now, and I'm working out on my deck painting oyster shells, and I'm like, people really like these. I'm like, wow, what a happy accident, because I really wasn't, planning on selling these. I was just, Robin told me, put everything on Instagram, like, all the messiness, all the behind the scenes, all the real life. And, I let everybody know, hey, the studio is shut down and doom and gloom. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm getting orders for these necklaces, and I love painting them.
Is that one that you're wearing right now?
My
Can you
I only
show
have
us?
Yeah, so this is it's like more of like a Nantucket whale necklace, and it is a genuine. This is an oyster shell. I literally
Wow.
picked it off of the beach in Connecticut, because I was doing a back in March. I was doing a wholesale, like a trade show, my first trade show, and I just stopped at in Connecticut, this nice little beach, and it was March, so it was freezing, and
Mhm.
I saw all these beautiful oyster shells. Like they were tiny, and they were just, I had imperfections, and I was like, these are really beautiful. I'm just gonna like collect a whole bunch. And I filled my bag and I went home, and I didn't think anything of it until I had to tear everything out of my studio, and I saw this bag of oyster shells. And I love the natural beauty of them, and the symbolism of taking something that is recycled, that is discarded by the ocean, and making something beautiful out of it. Turn it into a piece that could be worn. And I love the organic shape. And so I started making hydrangeas, and then I went to whales. I've done sailboats, I've done lobsters, I've done all the nautical symbols of the sea.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, and then I started, like, within after my second week of launching them, stores started contacting me. Hey, we want these. So I sent them out to one of my favorite stores up in Cape Cod, the Gilded Oyster, and she's great. The store owner, Denise, is amazing, and she's like, if she sees something that she wants and knows will sell in her coastal location on Cape Cod, she's gonna contact me. And she was the first person. And I didn't even have like a price for wholesale at that point. It was just like everything happened so fast. So, yeah, definitely hydrangeas flew off the shelves. And then, people love the whales. I actually think I have one of these left on my website, but that's it. And then I was like, okay, I'm a one woman show. And if, you're making handmade jewelry that is not mass produced, I cannot get this sent to a manufacturer and recreated. It's a one of a kind piece. So, I knew that, okay, this could get a little overwhelming because after the launches, I started gaining more followers on Instagram. And then I started getting more people joining my VIP community. And people that went to events love them so much. They asked me, are you going to make more? Are you going to make like more nautical designs? And I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And that's exactly what basically happened is from a beautiful disaster created a new type of jewelry that people are just loving. And I think it's also the fact that it is hand painted
Mm.
truly makes it one of a kind. So all the pieces that people start purchasing from me, I also give them a certificate of authenticity. And each piece in the collection has an edition number. So think of it as this is a work of art that you get to wear, but it's so unique that you're going to get a certificate to go along with it. And I did that the second event I did down at the Jersey Shore, and I sold out within by 10 a.m.
Wow.
By 10 a.m.
That's
I
incredible.
Yeah, so it was yeah, I don't like
It still gives me goosebumps hearing this story, Amanda. And I think just thank you so much for coming on here and sharing this because, not everyone's going to have a flooded basement, but everybody has this like thing that goes wrong that really tests them, where it's like, should I give up? Should I quit? Is this a sign? And I want to give you a massive shout out because yeah, you felt all the feels. You went through those feelings of, oh my gosh, you mourned the loss of like so much from your studio and stuff. But then you didn't stay stagnant. And what happens to a lot of people, like we all respond to different pressures in life differently. And what happens to a lot of business owners is sometimes we get so overwhelmed by what's being thrown at us that we don't do anything. We just stay still, we get quiet, we don't do anything. And instead what you did was you took messy action. And I'm so for messy action. Did you know that taking messy action was going to create something that was going to end up selling out and getting you more followers and like doing so incredibly well? No, you had no idea,
Mhm.
but you took messy action anyway. And I think it's just a really powerful reminder for anyone listening that, when things are going wrong in business, the worst thing you can do is stand still. The best thing you can do is just keep moving forward. So, like you said, documenting the journey on Instagram, sharing what's happening. We're not creating content, we're literally just documenting what's going on. So, people have stories, they understand like what you're navigating. And then documenting when you start creating and when you start working with your hands and when you're making these pieces, because you never know what's going to happen. And for anyone listening, like that pivot could look different for everyone, but just taking steps and taking actions when you go through those hard seasons makes a world of difference. So I think your story is going to inspire so many designers, Amanda. And I'm just so thrilled for you because you have put in the work for years. Like you have
Mhm.
put in so much blood, sweat, and tears into your jewelry business and into your designs. And I just think it's such a wonderful thing to see, like you going through this like really tough season and then coming out thriving. Now, looking back, are you grateful that this happened? Like, even though there's still loss and stuff, like, is part of you like, oh my gosh, like I can see how I've grown through this. I can see how I've opened up new doors. Like, yeah, the loss and stuff is still painful, but is part of you kind of like, I don't think I would have been pushed to try this otherwise.
Well, first, yeah, I was really, I mean, I get a new studio out of it.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm about to even really soon. Literally have a painter here right now. He just opened the door. I think he's taking a lunch break right now, but I have the painter here right now. We picked out the flooring. That's the exciting part.
Wow.
Because you know, what happened was really messy. And I think, looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then now, a month, it's only been a month. It's only been a
Mhm.
month since this all happened. I'm looking back and I'm like, am I grateful that my studio got sold?
Well,
Am I like,
oh,
I don't, that's a hard question to answer, to be honest, because I think, at the time, no, I wasn't grateful. Am I still like, I don't know. Is it okay to
yeah.
just not know?
Oh, 100%. It sure is. I think sometimes things like this, maybe we only look back years later because I even look back on my journey, the most challenging seasons that I've gone through in the time, I was just like, what the hell? But when I look back years later, I'm like, oh, I can see how I kind of needed that to shift this. Or, that created an opportunity for me to do this. Or, we can sometimes only see it in hindsight. And it's not that we're grateful that these bad things happened, but we're grateful for the way it opened up something else that maybe wouldn't have opened up. But yeah, if you're not feeling it, I can't believe it's only been a month. I think because you've achieved so much in 1 month, I'm
Yeah.
like, it feels like a lot longer than that. But
Hmm.
yeah, it hasn't been long at all. So, you know, a lot of jewelry designers struggle when things don't go according to plan. And what helped you stay grounded and creative through such an unexpected challenge?
Grit.
Grit.
You just, and that's the
Mm.
thing. We've all experienced challenges, whether it's in business or life. And, when you're faced with something that is as difficult in your professional life, it can carry into your personal life. And I was to the point where I was like, no, I'm not going to stop. But at the same time, I knew that I had to pivot real quick if I wanted to continue the business. So I think out of everything, it's just keep going. Just keep going. And, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to inspire. I knew that when the flood happened in my studio, I knew that I wasn't going to change what I do. It was basically just the material that I had in front of me. And I did the pieces that I've created in my jewelry collection. They're so different, and I use jewelry resin in order to create and hand paint the waves of the ocean. And I couldn't do it upstairs away from my studio. I have to have a more of a darker space that has no natural sunlight.
Mm.
So I had to pivot real quick. And I could have just stayed down in the dumps for months and be like, okay, yeah, guys, okay, this is the update. Nothing's happening in my studio. But no, I think that what makes you authentic as a person and as a business owner, as a jewelry designer, is you show people the behind the scenes. You show that, things are a little rough right now. And we've all gone through rough situations in our lives, but show people the journey, show people how you get yourself out of the dumps. And just that one saying really sticks with me is like, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And I had a lot of people. It's interesting when I emailed, when I sent out messages to my VIP community. um, I got some messages after I sent that quote, and people were like, wow, this is really interesting how you have decided to put yourself out there and show everyone that this is messy action, like this is what you're dealt with, and you've turned it into something that is very different and authentic, but still you. I could have started making anklets, beaded gemstone anklets. I could have hopped on and bought a bunch of stacking rings just to fill that void. But what I always kept inside of me when developing my business, Northern Tie Studios, is create something that is authentic to you.
Mm.
And I love the artistry behind jewelry creation. I love creating things that are unique, and just going on to a website and buying chain stacking rings that just didn't feel like me. And I think what really piqued people's interest is knowing, hey, she's an artist. Like when I'm buying I'm buying a piece of jewelry from her. You're getting the artist's work, and that's when people see value in what you're creating.
Mm.
And so I got a lot of great messages after the flood happened, and people really stuck by me. And in fact, during, because people love to see when things go wrong, as you would say.
Yeah. They sure
People
do.
love
There's
to
nothing
see the
quite like
messy.
stuff going wrong to get you good engagement on social media.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I told everybody that my studio got flooded and I sent that email out to my VIPs, I got the most opens on
Mm.
that. Like people open because they want to see what has gone wrong, and where's your journey going to take you from here. And that's it's really empowering to think back only a month ago to where I was. And now I barely have any pieces on the website. I'm pretty much I'm
Because they
pretty much
sold
sold out
out.
of.
You
Yeah.
sold out, which is
Yeah.
like the best problem to have. I think what's so beautiful about this whole story, Amanda, is sometimes when things go wrong in our businesses, we start looking at what other people are doing and what's working for them and what are they selling and what kind of content are they posting. And we're like, I'm just going to do the same because it seems to be working for them. And had you done that, you would not have experienced the same success. And what I really love, and this takes so much inner strength and confidence in yourself, instead of looking outwards, you went inwards and you went and like just kind of created what was coming up for you that you were feeling drawn to. And I think that's why, I mean, your pieces are so authentically you. They are so like they're so genuine and so real, and no part of any of your collection comes from looking at what works for other people, let me do the same, which some people build businesses like that and then they wonder why there's just not that deep connection with customers, and customers don't really always understand the level of like why they're resonating with the brand. And it's that missing piece. Like they can feel that genuineness and that authenticity, and that you are an artist, you're a creative soul, and this came up as you were navigating this loss essentially of your studio. And so I think that's so beautiful and a wonderful reminder for everyone. When you're going through challenging times, don't look outwards, like look inwards and like see what's coming up for you before you go and like try be inspired by what everyone else is doing, because it's usually not going to be the right path for you anyway. So what did this whole experience teach you about your customers?
It taught me pretty much exactly what you said, is that they want to see you. They want to see you as not only just a businesswoman, but as the designer, as the creator. And you know they want to it's just so interesting, is you go on to Instagram and you see other designers and you see the big brands, and what is the most powerful element is human connection. And that is something that really lacks in people that just start out, because like you said, you hop on, you see what other people are creating. And I think what really resonated with my customers is I continue to be me without turning into something that I'm not.
Mm.
And that's so important, is that when life life will give you some really challenging moments, and your mind can really shift to a very dark place. And trust me, I've been there. But what I know going forward is that the pieces that I create are going to be from my hands.
Mm,
And they love to see the process. They love to see the behind the scenes. They don't want to, my customers don't want to see a pretty package that has manufactured, jewelry or a branded box. I've even changed that. I've gone back because all my packaging, by the way, is gone. All my packaging was
mm,
damaged. It had mold all over it. So
oh,
what did I do? I bought jewelry boxes and I got stickers made and I stuck them on. And you know what? I like them even better.
mm,
So people want, they want to see, your journey and your story. There's always a story. That's why people watch movies. They want to see how it all turns out. So I'm really happy that I'm at this point in my business that through this kind of challenge of not being able to work in my studio has produced something beautiful. It definitely makes me feel like God gave me the sign that, yeah, you're doing it and you're going to create something beautiful out of something that has happened that kind of sucked at the time, but going to the ocean, going to the water has created such a peace in you. And by creating these pieces that people are resonating, I'm able to help other women, help other people feel more calm, feel more um, at peace. And that's,
mm.
what I do.
Oh my gosh, so beautifully shared, Amanda. And I think that's such a beautiful takeaway when it comes to like what you've learned about your customers and what they like. And what I think is fascinating is when somebody's a new business owner, they all go do everything opposite to what you just said. They go for the fanciest packaging that looks the most professional. They go for what they see other people doing often. They forget about the story. They try and hide themselves or show up as a very filtered version that they think they need to be for people to love, accept, and buy from them. And it's really the complete opposite that works. So I think this experience of yours is so fascinating, even just simplifying the packaging and really leaning into the storytelling and really leaning into documenting. Some people say that content feels so hard. I'm like, you're just doing it wrong if it feels hard, or you're just new and you're building that muscle. Because it sounds like you've kind of got in a groove here and you're like, okay, this is like, this isn't so hard. I don't have to make up something. I don't have to show up as a version of myself. I can show up as I am. I can share the real stories. And it just feels more genuine and authentic and way more engaging. So huge shout out to you for just turning this into such an amazing pivot and just such a wonderful story, Amanda. I'm just so excited for you, and I feel like this is only just the start for this new collection. I feel like there's so much potential. I'm sure you probably have people on wait lists at this point.
I
um
do. I do. I have stores on wait list. I
oh
have
my
mainly
gosh.
stores right now because I can't, like I think I talked to you about, like, when I was on a group call a couple of weeks ago and I said I need a break. Like I need to take some time off. I'll still be active on Instagram and I'll still like pop up, but you also have to, like, I'm a human being, like I need to, pause and spend time with my family. So I'm actually taking August off. In fact, I just finished some new pieces that I'm going to be launching. Well, I don't want to say launching. I'm going to say restock. To my
Oh,
So this is my
so
hydrangea necklace.
gorgeous. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
on a
So
Ghostville
gorgeous.
chain. But I want people to
Show the
also.
Instagram live as well. Show the
Oh yeah,
Instagram live, people.
hey
we,
guys, here
yeah,
you go.
so beautiful, Amanda.
Yeah, so this is one of my hydrangea necklaces, and um, I'm about to put a restock on my website. I'm probably gonna just do it on Saturday. I mean, I know there's always good days to put something on your
So
website, but
dreamy.
I'm about to take a vacation, and Yeah, so I'm about to take a vacation and I'm like, okay, guys, and I keep telling like my VIP community, I tell my followers on Instagram, this is the last restock. I'm gonna take a break. And I have some new pieces that I'm also gonna be putting on the website that are still from oyster shells, but some requests because I asked people on Instagram, I asked my followers in a poll, like, hey, what do you want to see next? And that also, there's people out there that would give you inspiration to create new pieces within your niche. And
Mm,
so, yeah, this is going to be my last restock. I'm going to be taking a week-long vacation to Cape Cod with my family.
I
And
love
then my
it.
kids are going back to school. And then we're going right into the holiday season
Oh
at
my
Northern Tide
gosh.
Studios. So a little sneak peek there.
I'm so excited for you, Amanda, and I hope you have the best time in Cape Cod. You definitely need a holiday after all of this. And I think it's so fun that you can go in feeling relaxed and excited about your business. Like the pivot is on track, like you have the wait list, like you know what you're doing when you get back, which is such a different feeling. So I'm so excited for you. And I know we're almost at time. So I have one quick question, one last question, because obviously you've been in the JBA for a couple of years now. What shifts have you noticed in your business, and like what's been your experience, even like navigating this hot mess situation? You obviously are the one who came up with like, this is going to be the pivot, this is going to do this, I'm you putting in the work. So like you put in all the work here, but what's your experience of being in the academy, and like sometimes when like these hot mess situations show up, like having the community, having support, having someone to just be like, hop on a call, like the group calls, and just be like, this happened, like what's your experience been?
One thing that stuck out, something that you said, is there's no emergencies in jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that really, I think, struck me when I joined the Jewelry Business Academy, because I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing. I was an art teacher who decided to take a leap of faith, leave my job, and go into something that is totally different. And what has changed? Gosh, we're going back to 2022. I was a nervous wreck. I was like overwhelmed. I didn't know how to make the connections. I didn't know how to market. And what has helped me throughout the years is the continued support, like up until now. And I still hop on to our group calls, or I post something in our Facebook group whenever I have a question. Nothing's going to be perfect, but what I love is, there's no emergencies. You don't, this is a marathon, and you've always said that, it's not a race. It's a marathon, and enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process of building something from scratch and having that support. And I have to say, like, the people that are in the Jewelry Business Academy, they are one of the most greatest supports that I could ever have. Um, there is just such a community of people that really truly want to learn from one another, grow, and having that support where I live in the kind of in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey. I have nobody. I have
Mm-hmm.
nobody within the business, especially within jewelry. And the Jewelry Business Academy for me has helped me gain more confidence. Um, and also just like not feel like I have to be at the top, because I think when a lot of people prior to joining, getting that support from any coach, you feel like you have to be at the top within a month. I need to
Mm-hmm.
make so much money at this. I need to do this. Why is this not working? Okay, I've met a coach. I need to make six figures within the first month.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen. And what I love is that you kind of take us through this journey where we're able to use the building blocks of what you provide and slowly increase. And that's the marathon. It's
Yeah, sustainably.
yeah. And
Sustainable growth is where it's at.
Yeah, and it really teaches you as a person. Like, at the same time, of course, it's overwhelming and challenging to start something new, and it's scary. But if you don't have that support, you're going to be stuck. And I really think that when I joined the Jewelry Business Academy, that was my mindset when I first hopped on. I said, okay, I got to make so much money, X, Y, and Z here in order for me to continue this. Yet I didn't. I haven't reached that ultimate goal. Um, but at the same time, when you're working towards that big goal, that's when you see the most growth in yourself. You make the most connections, and hearing others' stories from the Jewelry Business Academy, of everyone comes from a different background. And a lot of our fears and a lot of our questions are very similar. So you don't feel so alone in this journey. And that has been so incredibly rewarding to me.
I love hearing that, Amanda. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, it's so interesting. Even our group calls this week, like so many people had the same questions. We were looking at the fears around pricing and increasing price. And it's like sometimes when we're on our own and a challenge or whatever comes up, we assume like this is like just us facing this, like what's wrong with me or my business or whatever it is. And when we normalize stuff like this, we take away the fear and we take away the shame sometimes that comes up with some questions or challenges or whatever. And we're able to like normalize it, see people navigating the same thing, see people further ahead who've already navigated that and be like, oh, like this is all solvable. So I love that you shared that, and we love having you in the JBA. We really appreciate having you there, and I love watching you and your business grow. And I know we're going to have people listening to this who are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I need to see these oyster necklaces. I want to buy one for my next birthday or whatever." And I want to follow along on Amanda's journey and support her. So, where can our listeners find you, and how can they support you?
Okay, so I have a website. It's northerntidestudio.com. And follow me on Instagram at Northern Tide Studio. Even when I'm going to be on a vacation, you are going to see some beautiful views of Cape Cod, and really, gain the background of why I create these pieces from a beautiful view. So yeah, I hope people enjoy my journey.
I am so excited. We'll link all of those in the show notes so you guys can follow along. But thank you so much, Amanda. This has been so much fun hearing this story from like disaster to like pivoting and like in the very best way possible. So thank you again so much for joining us.
My pleasure.